Okay, Cameron Crowe and Zack Evans. Oh boy, we're gonna talk about Zach's Coal Valley story, and if you don't know already, I wrote a blog post 13 days ago, and I'm losing track of time. I thought it was like 3 weeks since then, but it's only been 2 weeks. And now there's a website, coalvalleyspeaks.com, and a ton of shit has happened. I basically said how I look back on my Coal Valley experience, I think it was terrible and really harmful to kids. And this really struck a nerve, and my phone's been blowing up nonstop since then. And Zach, among several others, wants to chat about what his experience was. Is that right, Zach?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially considering how long and shared our experiences were together.
Oh yeah, well, we know each other since you have
kindergarten?
Your memory's about 100 times better than mine, but yeah, kindergarten, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're both there in the same class for the same years, so.
And playing the same sports and going to the same youth group and all the extracurriculars.
All that stuff, yeah. So,
Wow.
23 years now I've known each other.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you saw the post and what did you think?
I would definitely say it very closely mirrored my reflections and experience in a lot of ways. Like the ways that I look back on Coal Valley now and think about it, because I think very similarly to you, I was there for kindergarten through 12th grade. Went to Coal Community Church for most of that too. It's, public knowledge, that my dad is still a pastor at Coal Community. And, I've talked to him about the post and my experiences and stuff too. And
oh, really?
Oh yeah. Cause I don't want to speak for him at all on it, but
right.
Obviously, but I've had discussions with both my mom and my dad about it. And, I'm very fortunate to have had a, maybe less sheltered, less, closed-minded view set at home at my time in Coal Valley. I'm very fortunate in that way. I mean, talked with you about it, the fact that you reference parents having voted for John Kerry in 2004, and those were my parents. Like when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, that was me. Like,
they've been revealed.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I know they have no qualms about that. They have no issue with people knowing that. But yeah, my experiences looking back on Coal Valley are very similar to what you described. There are some maybe additional layers that I have personally with my experience that would be different, but just in general, like I left Coal Valley feeling like positive about it. And it's in the years since then that my perspectives have changed, especially as like I've come to know more about myself personally and also just the world and kind of the two working together. It's definitely changed my outlook looking back on it now, like almost 11 years since I graduated.
Yeah. So is there anything that I don't know, looking back, how like history kind of changed? At least for me, looking back, it's kind of like history has changed. It's like all the same events, but they're all in a different color now. Like,
they definitely don't feel the same looking back, even though they're the exact same events. Even like there are very genuine, happy moments and experiences that I still look back upon and are happy about. But there's a little bit of an undercurrent of, but there's something a little insidious feeling now looking back upon it. And I don't want to make any like claims that my experiences at Coal Valley were especially difficult, especially compared to what other people went through, because they weren't. Like I was generally not picked on or bullied in any like direct way. I was not, I didn't deal with what a lot of other people dealt with. But part of that experience too is now understanding like, oh, there are people who were being bullied or, you know, feeling left out, like cast out for things that I would be too. Um,
Oh yeah.
Knowing now, like, I mean, to like just put it out there, you know, like since graduating from Coal Valley, like it took me a long time to realize that I'm bisexual. Like not I'm not straight. That took me a long time, even after not feeling the same dedication or devotion to the religion that I had at Coal Valley to figure out. And I realized like a lot of that comes from like the teachings we had at Coal Valley that made a part of me go, that part of me is wrong. And looking back and knowing like classmates that were, you know, either rumored to be gay or were, and the experience they had there, and thinking back on my own, going, man, there were people who were bullied for being gay who weren't. And
that's true.
And I wasn't, you know, like, and that's like, I am very fortunate to not have experienced those things. I don't want it to be like, oh man, I wish I was bullied back in high school. But
yeah,
I like that thought to me is just so weird and like so wrong.
Yeah. Like, so you mentioned there, you know, some of the teachings or at least culture, especially with LGBT kids, like what are some of the memories you have of that? And is anything kind of stick out as like here's an example? Or
I mean, I distinctly remember the first time being taught what gay people were, and I had met gay people before that because my parents were very, very close friends with a gay couple before they had any of us kids, when they previously lived in Seattle. And I met them when I was really young, and I just didn't understand it, but I also didn't question it. I distinctly remember in like fourth grade being taught the story of Sodom and Gomorrah and that's how I remember like learning what gay people were. And so like that's
I knew. I don't think it clicked for me back then, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it even fully clicked, but like I distinctly remember learning that and like being told that was sinful and wrong. And then like going I don't really remember a whole lot about teachings about like homosexuality or anything like that until high school, when it was like pretty like drilled in how wrong it was. Like
it was a pretty big focus, I think, and like jokes a lot.
Which I, looking back on it, sure I participated in, which
it's just what everybody did.
Yeah, because I had no idea. I just remember thinking like, oh, I just can aesthetically appreciate that men are attractive. Like not thinking, oh no, that you are attracted to.
That means something, yeah.
Yeah, that means something. And it was easy for me to like cover up because like I dated in high school and stuff, like, and you know, am also attracted to women. So like it's like easy to be like, oh, that's nothing. That's nothing. Just push that back. Just repress that feeling for another 10 years till you figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, and so I just think I remember like just even when I didn't, because I thought that many of the jokes and stuff crossed the line, especially like in some classes where teachers would be like doing like effeminate, you know, mocking of gay people. And I just think I remember in Bible class that there was like a section,
glorious laughter too.
Yeah. I remember I remember in Bible class, there was a section on what water sports is, which is gay sex acts involving urine. That was taught as curriculum.
Damn.
And also I
forgot about that one.
Yeah, I kind of did until just now. I just remembered that was like probably a test question that we like had to like answer about immorality.
Doesn't that seem super messed up that like you're getting tested on, do you have the right views towards gay people and whether or not they're bad, like what they're doing is bad, fully bad. Like
Yeah.
it's
And
like a doctrinal test.
yeah. And I don't remember any things in there talking about like right and wrong morally in heterosexual, like in heterosexuality. Like I don't remember being taught that rape is wrong in that same like curriculum, and that's an issue. Like to be taught that like the
Serious
most
issue.
extreme straw man example of of homosexuality versus an incredibly common issue across all people, especially towards women, is not. That's
Yeah.
an issue.
Well, you bring up, kind of double standard, men and women, and kind of like what do you remember about kind of gender dynamics, or like we're I mean, I wrote in my blog post that I thought that there was like a big difference on how guys and girls were treated. Like,
Absolutely. Like I I remember getting frustrated over getting told to like have my hair cut quite a bit because I would frequently be breaking the hair length dress code, and thinking back on how frustrated I was about that versus what like our female classmates were going through, like how constantly being judged on how they were dressed, even if it was entirely modest.
yeah, compared to
Like
anywhere else in America,
yeah,
almost.
even like there's just like, and it was also just very shaming of different body types and stuff. Like some women can't, like it's harder for them to dress certain ways because of how like they are built physically. Like if you have larger breasts, it is harder for you to like keep cleavage covered all the time just because shirts aren't made with your body type in mind. So they're already fighting that just buying clothes, and then at school it's like being told, oh, you're distracting your brothers in Christ. Like, and
Yeah,
it's like,
it's your
no,
fault. You're gonna make them come on to you.
yeah. But it's like, no, they are being distracted from learning and like participating in school by having these disruptions. And
Exactly.
like, then it
And
like,
guys need to learn that it's like the world doesn't revolve around them. If you like get yourself under control, they can like handle
yeah,
themselves.
like we, like they should have been teaching us like to just not be distracted by that if it was an actual issue, like to be respectful in that way versus like it was always framed as be respectful because she's going to be someone else's wife someday. She's going to be a man's wife someday.
You are wronging some future man
Hmm.
by thinking about her like that.
Yeah, not
Not
you
her.
are. Yeah, you are wronging her by sexualizing her in a way that is unwelcome.
Yeah. Well, and what's really, so I remembered that before I did this blog post, um, and it was disturbing to me then. But it wasn't until like days afterwards when the support group got started that I found out there's been at least, I don't know, 4 or 5 rapes in the last 10 years that have been covered up
Yeah, and like again, like don't
and
want to.
victim blamed.
Yeah, don't want to speak for other people's experiences, but reading other people's experiences was like has been absolutely horrifying and just heartbreaking. Like I I knew of some like instances of things, I know people like personally who went through stuff there, but to see that it wasn't contained to just those couple
Right. It wasn't
situations,
a one off.
no, it hasn't been, and that's like incredibly heartbreaking to find out, because that goes beyond just the hurt that I've felt over my personal upbringing. That is like hazardous conditions for people
Totally.
to that, and that's a different level, and it also is eye-opening to remember, especially for people like you and me. We're cisgender white men in America that our experiences generally don't even come close to the experiences of, you know, people of color, of women. And like, you know, I basically had a non-queer Coal Valley experience, but of, you know, people who in Coal Valley who are being bullied for being queer. That stuff's heartbreaking to find out.
Did you see in the support group that that section of the student handbook that relates to homosexuality?
I did. I found it both incredibly troubling and like hilarious in the way that you kind of have to laugh at things that are terrible sometimes because of how clearly it reads out homosexuality / bisexuality. And like, I think I commented saying like, man, they're missing out all sorts of opportunities.
That's right.
To be hateful towards other queer identities because, man, pansexual people are apparently fine in the handbook.
Right.
You just can't be homosexual or bisexual.
Yeah. Would you mind explaining what's in that handbook for anybody that's listening? Or what you remember of it anyway?
Yeah, what I remember of it. I remember very specifically like how it talks about how you can be disciplined or even, I believe, expelled from the school for active homosexual or bisexual acts. So being homosexual or bisexual, for supporting or condoning was some of the language in there, which and that extends beyond students to also family life. So if you come from a family that, you know, either supports or just condones, which that also made me realize, man, I could have been kicked out for my parents having gay friends. Like,
yeah,
because they condone their lifestyle by actively being friends with them, or at least that's a way you could read it. I've never seen it applied to that extreme, but the way it's worded, that you could be kicked out of that school for your parents like being friendly with a gay person and not actively telling them that their lifestyle is wrong, because that could be considered condoning.
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, this is so shocking and disturbing, and it seems flat out illegal. I know that there's not like sexual orientation and gender identity protections in the Idaho Constitution.
And it just got not passed again.
I know. Yeah. But I was doing an interview earlier today actually, and Apollo was telling me like he thinks that's still illegal under like federal constitution or like federal Supreme Court decision. So like that could get challenged.
It feels so antiquated. It's hard to believe it's still in there. Like the extremity to which that language goes of if your parents condone homosexuality, you could be kicked out. Like that. Like, obviously I disagree entirely with that whole section, but that was shocking to me how far it goes.
Totally. And to be honest, what's even more disturbing is like that's the only thing that's talked about with any specificity in that section. It's called like biblical lifestyle section.
Yeah, it doesn't. There's so many other things in like
they're like obsessive.
Like behaviors and things that are very against a biblical lifestyle. Like if you break down a biblical lifestyle to what its absolute most core tenets of like what Jesus taught, it's a pretty good lifestyle. It's saying, don't be covetous to people. Don't be, like it's saying like, it's pretty good morals to live by.
Yeah.
Jesus never mentioned homosexuality, by the way, specifically. That was only in apostle letters.
Like Paul, right?
I think so. I'm a little rusty on my Bible trivia, but
few years. Yeah, man. So this is like what I keep coming back to with like the support group, and like we're starting to kind of figure out like there's been a lot of awareness stuff that's happened, but we're starting to kind of wrap our heads around like how do we prevent some of these, how do we prevent this culture?
Yeah.
Like, how do we keep basically keeping kids safe? And that word safe, I think, is like has a literal sense, like from keeping them from other people's harm and their harm, which is real. I think some people are like, oh, come on, like jokes, culture, whatever. That's the culture in Idaho. And I'm like, no, it's different in Coal Valley.
Yeah, it's a different, like, there are places in Idaho where you can go and find similar, but those aren't places that you should be holding up. Like,
well, and they're not like institutionally, I mean, maybe in some churches probably, but like there, like you wouldn't find anything like this in a public school where the administration and the teachers are upholding this and perpetuating it, in a lot of cases going much further beyond kind of a doctrinal perspective into like a lifestyle and like of oppression, essentially.
yeah, like seeing people like give like their stories about being told not to pursue like any kind of like action after being wronged
With sexual assault
and things like that, when it's just like, that is not a biblical standard to, like, that goes beyond what is set up as what Coal Valley standard should be by their own rules. Like, biblical standard would be to also like bring that person in that did the wrongdoing, and they have consequences for them as well, because they are very clearly going against a biblical lifestyle by doing that, unless
right.
You mean like old times, like Old Testament biblical, where you're like punishing like other countries.
Maybe that sounds good, but
yeah, like that's not what they are saying they mean. So there needs to be a serious like accounting of what do we actually stand for at this school. And that's like, I think it's really hard ever to get institutions to actually look inward and make change. But I also think that so many people wouldn't believe what's going on there, because it's shocking to us. Yeah, it's shocking to us. Years. Yeah. Like, again, like knowing about a couple little things here and there, and by little things, they're still horrible things, but to hear like how rampant it was is like truly eye-opening.
Yeah, what's like probably the most disturbing to me is like there's almost like a playbook to silence and hush and make whoever this happened to feel ashamed about it so they won't say anything.
People won't believe you.
Exactly. It'll be a he said, she said. Let's just pray about it.
And also there's just a lot of shame being thrown on, let's pray about the sin that you were just part of. And like,
right.
No,
you have some responsibility for what just happened to you.
Mm-hmm. And that's even like, you can't, like, from a biblical perspective, like your sin or like a sinful act of yours being perpetrated on someone else isn't their sin. That is like, just because you sin towards someone else, just because I steal from someone, it's not sinful that they got stolen from.
Right.
Like, it's not sinful that they got robbed. It's not like if I run up to someone in the street and punch them just randomly, it's not like they didn't punch themselves.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That feels like the mindset that's going on here.
Yeah. And it'd be one thing, I feel like, if it was like, they dealt with some of these things and they had like questionable positions on it, but like it didn't feel like they were hiding anything. But it
If
feels like they were hiding things all the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if you saw just like within the last hour the post on the support group. Apparently Cole Valley is trying to silence a current student in the support group. I got a message from somebody giving me the lowdown and saying like somebody got pulled aside and said, knock it off or you're going to be in serious trouble. And I'm like,
Oh,
hell no.
yeah, that's very troubling.
Not,
That's like one, I mean, to anyone who might be narking that student out in the group, come on. Like, I don't understand that behavior. Like, it having a safe space for people to talk about their experiences and grievances is not an attack. Anyone like, and anyone from Cole Valley who might see this, like, that is not an attack. The group is not attacking Cole Valley. We want good change to happen there. Like, there's obviously going to be wildly differing perspectives on how people feel towards Cole Valley within the group. But like, I'm not going in there to be like, okay, how can we get this place out of business? You know,
right.
like I I want that because I know people have good experiences there. I know that there is good things that come from that place, and I felt that way when I left. It's only looking back where some of my memories have and feelings have changed on it. But come
Yeah.
on, like people should be able to express how they feel and express their concerns with, their environment, and especially with people who understand.
Absolutely. So many people
Yeah.
have been like, I thought I was the only one. I've never told this story,
Yeah.
or yeah, I've only told it to like two other people, and like it's so refreshing to be able to have all these people that are like I can say this to, and I don't have to defend myself, to debate. I'm not like a minority where I'm just going to get piled on and like being told what I'm crazy or what I think or feel doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's really kind of a therapeutic experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Like again, like my experience is nothing compared to what so many other people went through, but even me like getting to post in there and talk about, my feelings and stuff, like it's been therapeutic for me because, it made me really reflect on the fact that like there's still a piece of me that feels robbed of years of like my life not understanding who I was, specifically because of how I grew up in Cold Valley, learning to hate people like myself.
Right.
And like, I am incredibly happy with who I am now and where my life is and stuff, but there's still a piece of me that's like, I didn't get to experience fully understanding who I was through all of college and my young adult life because I was told it was wrong. And so therefore I ignored myself. And that experience is nothing compared to what many other, queer students at Cole Valley went through.
Yeah.
And that like, and I'm sure many, many others repressed similar feelings or like, went through serious mental health issues because of that. And that's wrong. Like,
Yeah, this was the other thing that I was thinking about. We were talking about safety of students. Safety from students isn't only harm from others. Depression and self-harm are real and present dangers,
mm-hmm,
especially if you are being force-fed that you being you is bad and
mm-hmm.
and like an abomination. Um,
Especially in queer communities where like self-harm and suicide and mental health issues are already at an increased rate. And I remember specifically in Coal Valley being taught that that was because it was wrong. That's not true. Those are increased because people are always telling, queer people that it's wrong. They're always telling them you shouldn't be this way. And so if
Yes.
you're doubting yourself all the time, you're going to it's going to affect you. Like, I know it affected me at times when I didn't even know it, but it's like I've dealt with mental health struggles and stuff like that. A lot of my worst times were in the years between when I had left Coal Valley and when I had really started to figure out who I was as a person. And like, it's amazing thinking through it now. Like, I still deal with anxiety and self-doubt and depression and stuff like that. But my best years of dealing with those has been since I figured that stuff out. And like, like I've talked to people about before, like, queer Zack is the best Zack I've ever known. And like, I'm happiest now than I've ever been, like, because of understanding who I am and getting to like, man, like even little things like getting to make jokes about it is real fun. Like that. Like, and that was all deprived from me because of like not feeling like I was allowed to be who I was.
Exactly.
So like, and like, I know gay Christians who are still like some of the most devout people I've ever seen or met, who can like balance the idea of this is a faith that is based in really old, societal beliefs and rules. And here's how it progresses to now. I don't understand why this is something that's still held on to so tightly by places like Coal Valley.
Do you think Coal Valley could come around? Like, because there's a lot of denominations, right, where they're gay affirming.
I would really hope so. Like, I'd really hope that it could get to a point where Coal Valley's dress code doesn't include things like having two different types of material next to each other, which I don't remember the specifics, but there's rules in the Bible that say to not have this material next to this material in your clothing.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
Why is that left out of their rules and homosexuality is still like just grabbed onto so tightly when, again, Jesus never talked about it? Like, that should be the number one place you're looking to for like your example to live by. Why can't like a gay Christian be accepted at Coal Valley and understood that, hey, this book was written a really long time ago. We look at some of these rules and understand that that was for society 2,000 years ago, and some still apply today. Why is this one that we're still holding on to?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned it took you a lot of years to kind of figure some of this stuff out, and it did for me too. Like, what was that process like going from Coal Valley great to I'm a confident bisexual man?
I think there's a lot of steps to it. There was like one, like, leaving Coal Valley, I still like had a little bit of a Coal Valley bubble. Like, you were part of that too. Like, there was a group of us who all went to Boise State, all lived on campus, and there's still a little bit of a bubble that slowly started, falling away. And like, I still went to church for a couple of years after like leaving, after graduating, which was largely based on still playing music at church, which was like a big thing for me. And I think it was just a really slow experience of going, I don't know if I fully believe this anymore, to, yeah, I definitely don't believe that, but maybe I believe this. And I still don't even consider myself an atheist. Like, I still believe in some kind of something. I just don't necessarily think we could understand it ever. And I don't even know what that means. But,
right.
And then it just was a long time of like, not always feeling like there's part of me that wasn't quite there. Like, I couldn't figure out what was missing. Like, And it's the funniest, weirdest thing, but it was literally just a friend of mine very casually coming out to me as bisexual by making a joke about it, and then realizing, oh, but he's serious. Like, he's talking about, you know, wanting to have sex with a man. Like, it was a joke, but I realized, oh no, he's serious. And I was like,
Oh, he's not like, just kidding, just kidding.
yeah, it was it was just a very casual thing. And it was like, oh wait, it like just like clicked something in my brain. It took me still a long time to figure it out. And I think just a long time of like talking to friends that I was really comfortable about, going like, I think I might have just figured something out about myself. And then eventually, like, being in the relationship I am now with my partner Anya, and just talking to her and like coming to understand like, oh yeah, like this is 100% who I am. Like, and to like, again, like I'm super happy with where my life is now, but then going back, like, man, I wish I just known that. I wish I just figured that out a long time ago. Like, cause like not even with specific regrets or stuff, just having an understanding of who I was a long time ago would have made it a lot easier to figure out maybe some other mental health stuff in my life instead.
Yeah. Like, kind of slowed your personal development.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I was probably putting the blame on other weird anxieties in my life and stuff instead of like figuring out something else, you know, like.
Well, something so core and personal, it's almost like until you can make peace with that part of yourself, I mean, how's the rest of your life really going to be that good? I don't know. Like,
like,
it's hard. I mean, I don't have the personal experience with this, but it just seems so core.
Yeah. And like, once I figured it out, it 100% was like, it's the weirdest thing because, you know, I was like kind of casually out with some friends and stuff. And it was the last presidential election night. I had this feeling of like, man, life is about to get real rough for some people that aren't able to cover up who they are. And that's like why I came out. Like, I posted something on Facebook just going like, I'm here to take any of the harm that is directed your way, like, because I'm going to be out and open about this, so that like if someone is messing with you, like they're also messing with me, and I want that to be I want that to be public knowledge.
Right.
That was like the only reason I really even came out publicly at first. But then once I did, I was like, yeah,
feels good.
This feels good. This feels right. Like,
yeah,
like I don't even think about it anymore as like something I have to think about. Like, if I make a joke about it or make like my name on Twitter a joke about it or something like I do sometimes, like, it's not me like being performative anymore. It's just, that's who I am. Like, and like, that feels good. And I wish for kids at Coal Valley in the future to not have to like wait to feel that, like, to just be okay with who they are and just like get to be public being okay who they are.
Yeah. What if, okay, so there's a kid, like, imagine there's a kid, and I can think of some, but there's a kid like little Zack, that maybe is aware of this in freshman year of high school, like, you know, not totally straight, or has other feelings too. And what's your advice to that person that's like, you're just started high school in Coal Valley, which is like, as far as I can tell, the worst place you could possibly be, almost, besides like, I don't know, an Islamic State.
Yeah. One, like, know that you're not alone in feeling like how you do. Like, know that I 100% guarantee you're not the only person in your class going through what you're going through, because it's, you know, been made obvious now in the years since that for as small as classes are at Coal Valley, there's a good percentage of queer people also, and like that I know of personally or have like talked about in the group and stuff. Know that you're not alone. Second thing is like, it sucks, but do what you need to do to protect yourself. Like, because the unfortunate reality is that not everyone has your back and not everyone, you know, is going to be accepting or understanding, especially in that environment. And you don't have to feel like protecting yourself is wrong or is in any way like, I don't know. I know people who feel like they're betraying fellow queer people or whatever by not being out, and that's not true at all. Like, do what you need to do to protect yourself, 100%. With that, if you have any ability to get outside of that bubble and talk to someone who does understand, who is there for you, does love you truly unconditionally, then I 100% say like find any way you can to, like someone who you can truly trust. I offer myself as that if you're part of the group, like
Yeah.
and there are good people out there who will keep your anonymity and things like that. There are good resources out there for you.
Yep.
And just know that no matter how hateful like or wrong people are towards you or other queer people, it's not true. Like the things they're saying are not true. And like if like the biblical God exists, he loves you, like and like for who you are, because he made you that way, and he wouldn't make that mistake. Like if the biblical God is real, he made you that way, and it's not a mistake. Or whatever God it is, or however we come to be on this planet, you're not a mistake for being that way. Yeah. And it's okay to doubt and question things, and just, I don't know, man, because I didn't go through it personally much in high school. It's sometimes hard. It's hard for me to like know how to give that advice, but 100% like know that I'm there for you and there are other people there for you. And like, once you get out of that bubble, it's a good time. Like it gets a whole lot better, and like you will get to, if you make it through that and get outside that bubble, you're going to get to have those days of being truly who you are. And I'm so sorry that it's not now. And hopefully that can change.
Yeah. Yeah. You can reach out to Zach, or if it's easier to reach out to me, I can connect you with Zach or anybody else. We've got a bunch of LGBT folks in the support group. I would say be careful posting in the support group now that we know that there's people are getting narked on, but like if you want to join and look at some of the posts and see who you identify with and message them, that'd be a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last two questions I have, unless you want to kind of cover something else we haven't done already yet. Oh, and by the way, when I said Islamic State, I don't mean that's not Islamophobia. I mean like the Taliban.
Yeah,
it's like incredibly repressive.
Yeah, I paused for a second, then I was like, oh wait, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
that's a good thing to clarify, probably.
Yeah, in case somebody doesn't know what that means, but
yeah, like literally ISIS and
yeah,
where
they
level.
Like just murder these people. Okay, yeah. So the last two questions, unless you want to add anything, are what would you say to the Coal Valley administration? Do you have a message for them? And then what would you say to prospective parents that are considering putting their kids in Coal Valley? What would you say to them?
to administration, I want it to be so clear that I just want you to listen to what people are saying and have an open heart and mind, because ignoring people's experiences is so unchristlike. And again, maybe that rings hollow for some of you that, because I'm not like active in an organized religion anymore, but I spent a long time learning about Jesus, and I still think Jesus is a really great figure to look up to. And listen to people, listen to the students who are saying these are issues we're having, and don't just write it off as, oh, well, these are hateful ex-students that, aren't Christian anymore. Like, listen to these very serious negative, like, experiences that people had at Coal Valley and are continuing to have, and look within yourself to try to find a way to make things better and fix these issues. Don't get defensive, like, because someone's saying you're doing something wrong. Like, try to find a way to be better. And like, it's doing otherwise is just like, the whole like plank in the eye, Bible verse, whole, like, to a T, like saying like, oh, well, you say we're doing this. Well, no, you're just hateful. Like, just listen. To perspective, like to parents, like thinking about putting their kids in Coal Valley, I can't endorse that. Like, as again, I went there for 13 years. I am still connected with people, like connected to that world, tangentially in some ways, but just, I can't endorse it. There are much better places to put your kid. If you are looking to have like a solid religious upbringing for your kid, like, Jesus didn't only spend time in in the religious centers. He went outside of that. Like, put your kid in a public school and find a really, really solid church to also go to supplement that. Like, that's a more Christ-like upbringing, to like be among people of different experiences and stuff, but really reinforce the teachings of Jesus at home. And, by going to church, if that's the upbringing you want for your kid. Living inside that bubble 100% of the time doesn't do it. Yeah, I can't recommend it. Like, these are like the kind of conversations I'm kind of having with my parents now, of like, I don't blame them for sending me there whatsoever, but looking back on it, I can't like recommend it.
Would not do again.
Yeah, would not do again. Again, like, had a lot of great memories and a lot of great experiences, and like still have a lot of great friendships from time there. At the same time, like, man, like, seeing how some of our classmates and people who are still in that bubble, some of the things they believe, it's hard to see when people never figured some of that stuff out. And like, I hope everyone does. Like, I want Coal Valley to be a good place. Like, I'm not looking for it to be shuttered. I don't want to push it into the sea. Like, I hope it can change and become a really positive place.
Right. Yeah. And I would second all of that. But I would say that I want Coal Valley to be a place where we don't have to say all this stuff about, like, we can say it's a safe environment to grow up. And you'll learn, you'll be exposed to tons of ideas, and you can be yourself, and you don't need to be limited in your questioning and thinking. Like, they're not trying to close your mind, they're opening your mind. I want
exactly
that.
Like, if a kid there is like questioning their religious beliefs, that should be an invitation to have communication about why they're questioning them, and like, and truly like have those discussions with them, not, oh, well then you're sinning by rejecting
You
God.
don't have enough faith or whatever.
Yeah, like that's a very normal thing for even people who stay within the faith to question at some time.
It should make it stronger. If this is, I am an atheist now, but like, this is one thing that always bothered me. Like, why are you not letting me question freely? If this is true, then it's going to stand up to whatever I'm going to throw at it.
Yeah. And that's, very similar to my experience of like, I don't know that the organized and like very specific religion aspect of Christianity stood up to my questioning, but the idea of some higher being of deity, which in a lot of ways for me personally kind of resembles the Judeo-Christian God, which might just be because of my upbringing, that does stand up. And that is part of why I still have that like faith in something.
Yeah.
So like, if you question something, if you truly believe it, it will stand up to your questioning.
Yep. Totally. Whew, man. Good talk.
Yeah, man.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, looking forward to drinking a beer with you at Tree Fort.
Yeah, me too, man.
Thanks again. I think this is going to mean a lot to a bunch of viewers. Maybe a little Zach too. So not really a little Zach, somebody like Zach. That's little.
I mean, hopefully just exactly me, just tiny little me.
Anyway, yeah. Thanks again. Talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, man.
Bye.